Welcome to the It Matters podcast. I'm your host, Walter Perez, and let's dive in as we help you grow your mindset and elevate your leadership. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm glad you're here today, and I have a very special guest. Well, she's actually very special to me because that is my wife, Alexandra Perez. And many of you have already met her on the show because I had her at the beginning of this podcast a month ago, where she was hosting an episode to give me an opportunity to share my heart on why the It Matters podcast. And so I wanted to have her back on the podcast, and I was going to wait a little bit, maybe later on in the year. But you know what? I think the time is now, and I want to be able to chat about quite a few things actually with her. And I want you guys to get to know her, get to know her heart. She's a big dreamer. She does a lot, and I'm excited for her to share with you, because you're going to meet the woman that is the entrepreneur, the mother, the volunteer, the advocate. She wears a lot of hats, but she wears them well. And so, Alex, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming back. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having me back. And this time I get to be a guest and share with you kind of my thoughts on different things about leadership and advocacy. And I've been loving the podcast so far. You've been doing an amazing job. And so, yeah, I am pumped to be your guest today.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad you're here. And I want to get right into it because, it's easy for me to say that you're my wife, and that's how people can connect you to me. But I want to chat a little bit more who you are, and I want you to tell our audience a bit about who you are and what you're about.
Okay, for sure. Well, I am your wife. And we do have 5 kids together, ranging in ages from almost 9 to 1. So, pretty busy life that we have.
Mm.
And of course, we run the Leader Co together. I am the chief leadership advocate because I love everything advocacy. And I do have a business called Chosen and Created, where it's an advocacy brand. So I have clothing, I have mugs, I have signs, all different kinds of things. And it's going to morph into more of not just a product-based business, but it's going to be about advocates and for advocates and how I can help them thrive.
Mm.
And then we have a son with a rare disease, which is where that comes from. And so the organization that represents his disease, the PFIC network, I volunteer with them, different projects. Just in a bunch of different ways. So yes, I do have a lot of hats. But I love all of them, and I am passionate about all of them, which makes it a joy to do all those things.
Mm. Yeah, and like I said it, you just alluded to it as well. Like you're very happy in doing all that, and you do it well. And that's one of the exciting things for me is to watch you just live out your life like that, and the amazing leader that you are. And I know that you've been able to lead many uh, people, women, and even in organizations, and to just show how you can impact. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to be your husband, because you inspire me on a daily basis, and it's probably one of the reasons that I've been able to do a lot of the things that I have done and continue to do. And so I got to tell you, I think we make a good team. And so I want to thank you for having a big vision, having a big dream, and I guess I want to say it this way: not letting busyness and other things get in the way.
Well, thanks so much for saying that. I really do appreciate that because we are busy, but I'm glad to be your partner in crime.
So maybe we can. You've already alluded to that you volunteer for the PFIC network, and
Mhm.
um, you know, maybe like you and I have gone through a lot in our marriage. There's we've had some great things happen. There's been some challenging things, And here we are. Here we are. We've learned, we've adapted, we pivoted. There's something to say about that. That when you're committed and when you value, figuring things out and trying to make things work, that that you figure it out. It's not always going to be easy, uh,
Yeah.
but I think I can sit here and say that it's worth it. Would you agree?
Oh, 100%. Like, sticking together has made a huge difference in the things that we have gone through.
Yeah.
So I can't say enough about how important it is to have a vision together, so you're moving forward in the same direction, and just being unified and connected on what you're doing in everything that you do, like
Mm,
not just your family and your parenting if you have kids, but
yeah.
everything that you do is so important.
Yeah. So I want to come back to this vision part you just touched on in a moment, but you one of the things that I think we should chat about, because it's been a very significant, we'll call it, challenge season in our lives. It's having a child with a rare disease, and maybe if you're willing to walk us through a little bit, because it's been almost what, it's been over 5 years, almost, yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much 6 years of us walking through that. And um, I think that it's made you stronger. It's made you a better leader and a better individual. But at the same time, I think that you always had those characteristics prior to us finding out that we had a sick child. But what do you think this disease did for you? And maybe you can touch on a little bit. Of course, there's some challenges in that, but some of the good things it did.
Some of the good things. Well, I'm going to have to answer you with an answer about faith,
Mm,
because that's absolutely the only way that I think you can handle something that significant that happens in your life, that devastating.
right.
So you say that I'm strong, but I honestly don't think it's me.
Mm,
It's me just relying on God, going, you know what, this is way too much. I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. I'm emotionally broken when we found this out. So just I just fell back and said, Lord, carry me, because I don't know what I'm doing. I don't even know how I'm standing or walking through the day, let alone taking care of our other son that we had at the time.
mm,
So I think that was a really hard thing, but it's turned into a really positive thing where whenever something is going wrong in my life or something is hard, I know where to go. So I think that's been the biggest thing. And another thing that has been really, really positive is the amount of people that we've met, um, and the huge community that we now have that has been a significant support system for us,
mm,
and that we've been able to kind of speak into other people's lives as well who
right.
are going through something similar. So that's been really, really huge. Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that. I mean, hey, for those of you listening to this and you just heard the word faith and you heard the word God, don't freak out. This is our story. This is our journey. If you are trying to figure that out, if that's part of your life, or you're still trying to make sense of maybe the spiritual side of things in your life, continue on your journey. Okay, we're here to just share with you how it's worked for us, and we think it's a strong element, a strong thing in our life. And so don't get turned off by that, because we're just wanting to be real of what has happened. But you guys make sure to make sure you understand where we're coming from here.
Yeah.
um, yeah. And so you're talking about the opportunities that's created. And I think this is a good lesson for all of us, to remember that challenges may come in our lives, but we can use that to propel us. They can become a platform to do things that we never even imagined.
Yeah.
And so you just never know. uh, you guys hear me talking about maximizing your potential a lot. And that's because I strongly believe in that. I just don't want anybody to ever stand still and feel like they're stagnant. I want you to stretch. I want you to get uncomfortable a little bit, but I want you to dream and I want you to have a big vision. And on that note, I said I wanted to come back to that, Alex. Um,
Mhm.
you are a big dreamer. And um, I'd like to know a little bit more, like, how has having a sick child, how has different things, passions that you have in your life, why is that such a big deal for you to dream big?
Um, Geez, that's a really great question. I think that dreaming big really gives you a hope for the future. Um, it was helpful for me in not feeling stuck in when our son was diagnosed. Knowing that there are good things that are going to come in the future. There are good things that are going to happen. And let's go create something amazing and let's go
Mm,
do big things together. Uh, and to do big things, you need to always be, growing.
yeah.
And I think the growing that it takes to achieve big dreams is a huge part of what um, helps give you significance on a daily basis.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and dreaming big keeps you positive, right? And
Yes.
I want to point something out, because something that I know about you, because I get to do life with you, is that you're a pretty positive person. But I don't want that to get confused with that you're not you don't feel pain, you didn't get hurt, you didn't that you don't have down days. Like, sometimes positivity can get confused with this kind of motivational perspective, like, oh, you're
Mhm.
always just rah and you're not realistic. Well, that's not what we're talking about here. The Because the opposite of positivity is being negative, being stuck in this filth of of the things that you're going through, and that's never healthy. That's never
Mhm.
healthy. But the positivity that you have, it just you use the word hope. You've always tried to figure out how do you take this mess, and how do we make something out of this, and use it now, because this is where we're at, and doesn't mean you have to stay stuck in there, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think that a lot of people think positivity is an attitude. Like, have a positive attitude and you'll be fine. And it's not an attitude at all. It's a choice. So it doesn't matter what your circumstances are or, what you're going through, that you choose to see the positive things, and you can do that well by using gratitude, which
Mm,
I think um, is just a really, really important thing when it comes to positivity, because it changes your mindset to think about the positive things that are in your life. So
mm,
even when you're going through something really hard, there's always something positive that you can find, whether that's like, you know what, I had a coffee today and it was hot, or it was freezing cold outside. I'm so glad that I have blankets and that I have a house.
right.
Like, these things start to alter what you're thinking about and help you to focus on the positive, even if you're in a season where things are really, really hard. And it actually helps you to get out of that season where things are feeling really hard. So it's super significant. It's not just some fluffy, oh,
Mm.
let's think positive, glass half full type of person. It's actually really a significant choice that you can make every day.
I love that. That's powerful, to have a choice. Like, you have a choice on how you're going to
A
um,
100%.
take that challenge on, whatever it is. And the cool thing about when you choose, when you don't make it an emotional thing,
Hmm.
and you make a choice, I find it very interesting how suddenly the resources, the tools, how things start coming together, and you start realizing that, hey, I actually have a solution seeking mindset. I actually I'm actually winning in life, and you start realizing, okay, I'm going to count my blessings. And that's why I love how you talked about gratitude. I don't think we
Mhm.
talk about gratitude enough. I
Yes.
think that if we all stop for a moment and really pause, even in the hardest challenge that you're going through, and think about what you can be grateful out of that, you will find something to be grateful. And we need to be we need to be grateful. I need to encourage everybody. We need to learn how to be more grateful.
Yeah. Oh, it's so, so important. I think, gratitude should really be practiced every day because it helps put you in a grateful mindset so
Mm,
that when things come your way, guess what? I might go through emotions of feeling sad or feeling angry, but it doesn't overtake me when I've trained my mind to see the positive and to be grateful.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? And I think that you've been a great example of that because it shows on how you live your life. I mean, it's no secret that having 5 kids could be overwhelming at times, especially when they're different ages and uh, every child is different, right? We got 2 boys, 3 girls. They all have their different likes, the way they think, and yes, they're all children, but there's so much that happens in that. And running an organization and volunteering brings its other challenges. Running a business, uh, having a startup, like there is so many different things that come out of that. But um, it, it's um, it's important to keep a proper perspective when you're doing that, because if you go into it defeated, well, you're always going to feel like I'm catching up. I'm just always working so hard. I don't have
Yeah.
energy, right?
Yeah. Well, and you just have a negative view in general if you're kind of that type of person.
Mm,
So no matter what happens, you can always find the negative.
yeah.
But if you just realize that you could choose actually to look for the positive, and then you'll start finding the positive easier that way.
Mm,
So it's you'll be a happier person. So it's really a good choice to make, I think.
mm. Okay, so I want to pivot our conversation a little bit because uh, I hear this a lot too, and I know that you do too. With We have chosen to live a busy life, and I mean, but we've chosen to live a life on purpose,
Ex-
and sometimes people don't understand, like, how can you be so busy, or and I'm not trying to call anybody out, but I want you to think about this, guys, because we quickly jump to the conclusion is like, I'm too busy. That's the reason I'm not going to pursue this. I'm not going to pursue that
Mm,
because I feel too busy. And that tends to be the number one excuse. I was going to say reason, but the excuse on why we won't pursue something greater, or why we won't elevate ourselves. Um, has busyness been something that you have struggled with, or used that as a as an excuse?
I think, I mean, I probably have, but overall, I think if you choose to view it as, here I am again with choices. If you choose to view it as living a full life rather than, oh, I'm so constantly busy or everything is so busy, because busy, I think, at least in our culture, has been given such a negative, like it sounds like a negative thing. So if you picture your life as it's full, right? Like for me, I got a lot of kids and they're very busy. Some of them are in school, some of them are at home full time. So it's just a full life outside of the other things that we do that aren't parenting.
Right.
um, but if you're doing things that are life-giving and they're in alignment kind of with where you see your life going, I don't think that you feel so busy. You
Right.
feel you feel productive. You feel like you're adding value to people. You feel like you are kind of living out your purpose.
Mm.
And so I think if you feel super busy and like you're not happy about it, maybe you're busy in the wrong things.
Ooh, that's so good.
Yeah.
I love how you connected busyness with life giving and being
Mm,
productive and feeling like, that it's actually, yeah, life giving is actually the best terminology.
yeah.
And I think that's important, right? To understand that busyness doesn't have to be a negative word. Busyness doesn't have to. always equal to less energy, or of course we're going to get tired. We're human beings, we're
Mhm.
people, and we have to learn how to have proper rest and so on. But um busyness, when you are value driven, and when you seek wisdom on and understanding the season that you're in, um you can be productive, and you can add value in that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think too, like one kind of practical thing that, well, both of us do, maybe not always consistently, but is planning ahead what you're going to do the next day,
Right.
because then you don't feel overwhelmed in your busyness,
Right.
and you feel um, more on purpose, and you feel like you can check things off. Not that it's just a checklist of like, I need to clean this, I need to do that, I need to talk to this person, but you feel more organized in your brain, and it
Mm,
helps you not to feel overwhelmed, I think. So that's one practical thing that we've done.
mm.
Hmm.
You did mention the words add value, and as I'm thinking about this, like we've said, you're a mom. You have your company chosen and created, which we will talk about it in a moment. You volunteer for the PFIC network. You also have partnered with me in the Leader Co. And what I and I want you to tell me what you think about this. It seems to me like a common denominator across these different things is that we want to add value. That you want to add value. Would you agree?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, and it's like, I think that everybody should add value to people. It's just, how are you going to do it, and what does that look like in your life? So for me, I want to add value to my kids. That's why I chose to have 5 kids, and I want to add value to them. We just so happen to have a son with a rare disease. So guess what? I'm going to add value to people that are also affected by that rare disease and other diseases. Just other things that we've gone through and things that we do together.
Yeah.
I when I believe in something, then I'm going to add value in that area. So whatever it is that you believe in or whatever you've gone through, I think that's where you have value to add. Yeah.
There's something to be said here. Why it's important to invest in yourself, because you need to find yourself in a situation. If you don't feel like you can give and you can add value, then
Hmm.
I think we need to pause. We need to stop for a moment and go, okay, we need to self-assess. We need to check ourselves. And if you need some pouring into right now, then you need to take some time to do that. If you need to go do some learning, you need to do some growing. You need to bring people around you that are going to add value to you. And not that you should stay in that position for very long. I think that you could continue to grow and adding value. There's a bit of a transaction that could happen in that
Hmm.
flows, that you don't have to feel like I have to arrive over here before I can actually go out into the world and add value. I don't actually believe that, because I think that when we think of it uh, um, as a river that's flowing through you, and you're not becoming a reservoir holding these things that you're learning. I think one of the best ways that we can learn and grow is actually when we take something and we put it into practice right away.
Oh, definitely. And even if you're not at that point where you've done a lot of learning, let's say, or personal growth,
Mm,
um, I think everybody can add value in the way of just encouraging people, or smiling at people, or actually conversing with people instead of staring at your phone. Like, there's so many things that you can do that don't involve a bunch of knowledge that you have, or just things that you've learned. It's really, it's basic people skills, and just loving people, being encouraging, being uplifting to others. So yeah, everybody can do that
yeah.
for sure.
Okay. You said basic people skills. You just said everyone can do that.
Yeah.
I, I I gotta say, okay, I hear it more often than not where people go, "Well, I'm not that type of person." Yeah, well, that's you, Walter. That's you, Alex. You're more of a people person, and I'm just not there. And we use these as excuses again. And the reality is, okay, everybody has the potential to add value. Everybody has something to give, and these general basic people skills we can all adapt to, we can all learn and grow. And I want to encourage everybody who's listening to this, if that's something that you're using as an excuse, go and figure out a way to step out of your comfort zone, and don't let that hold you back. You know how to talk to people. You don't have to be we've talked about different personalities out there, and we'll cover it more on a future episodes. But like, yeah, maybe your personality is more of a quieter person. Actually, let's do this. Alex, you and I have very different personalities,
Yeah,
right? Uh, y-
100%.
you're known as somebody who is a bit more quieter, but that hasn't stopped you from adding value at all. You
Right.
have some different strengths than I do, but we are able to still get out into the world and impact because you've taken ownership of who you are, but also stretched yourself a bit on that, right?
Yeah, and I think that that's a really important point that you just made. And I was going to bring up personalities as you were talking. Um, we have completely different personalities, and adding value is not a personality type. So I think that's just everyone should add value. And no matter what your personality is, it has its strengths.
Mhm.
And you as an individual have strengths. So you just have to learn how to cater to your own strengths. Like if you don't enjoy talking to people, maybe you can send encouraging texts,
Yeah,
right? Like you don't have to start a podcast. You could start a blog.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
you just have to figure out what works for you and what feels natural to you. But you do have to stretch yourself. Just because it's uncomfortable
Mhm.
doesn't mean it's outside of your personality. There's
Right.
always uncomfortableness involved in stretching and adding value to people.
So true, right? I mean, we got to remember that building habits, mastering your craft, doing these things, it takes some work. Okay,
Yeah.
nothing's gonna come easy, and we got to stop trying to take shortcuts. And I think that's one of the things that's holding people so much is trying to do either take shortcuts to the top or have perfectionism be part of their system, and those two are just a bad combo. And just knowing that, hey, one step at a time, implementing little habits here and there, and also getting rid of the bad habits, and
Mm.
allowing yourself to grow into it, but have that consistency of just of always continuing to learn something and to apply something, and putting it into practice.
Yes, 100% agree with that. Always be growing.
Yeah, yep, yep, yep. Okay, so chosen and created. That is
Yes.
a company that you have started. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about that? Because that came out of a season with our child having this rare disease. It's not something that you had in mind prior, and so
Right.
um, tell us a little bit more about that. Why you're doing it, and then I want to chat a bit more on where you see yourself going with that as well.
Okay. Yeah. So chosen and created really came out of the heart to help other advocates feel like they could represent who they really are. Because when you go through something like that where you need to advocate, and in this case, it's with rare disease, it completely changes your life. Like it turns everything upside down. All of a sudden, this is what everything is about because in our scenario, I mean, it's about the life of your child. Like it's a big deal. It's not like something on the side that, I just enjoy talking about sports or whatever. Like it's not a side thing. It takes over your whole life and
Right.
kind of changes who you are. Um, but you can get lost in that, um, and feel overwhelmed by it and feel lonely in that. And so I kind of wanted to, bring advocates together so we can feel like we're part of an advocate tribe, that we have each other's backs, that there's other people out there that understand what you're going through. Um, and that you are worthy, and that you are valued. Um, yeah, and kind of just where I guess I'll share with you the moment that I kind of it clicked in my head that wow, I'm actually like an advocate, because you get diagnosed, your child gets diagnosed, or you get diagnosed with a rare disease, and you don't go, okay, I'm going to be an advocate. Like, you don't know that world, you don't even know what that really means. And so one day I found myself saying, man, if I were our son, going through what he's going through, I don't think I could stand it.
Mm,
And I said that to myself, and I thought, oh my gosh, he's like, I think he was 4 at the time.
right.
He can't say that, go and say that to his doctor. Like, I have to be the one that speaks up for him and says, hey, you know what? This is actually not okay. And I need help. And I realized in that moment, I remember just, I was actually walking down the stairs in our house. I just remember it because it was so significant for me. Like, no, I am his voice. I'm the voice of my child, and I need to go and I need to advocate for him. So it's a very dear concept to my heart. And I
Uh,
wanted other advocates to feel the same.
okay, so you said something very important there that I want to bring to the forefront. When we talk about the word advocacy and the word to advocate, there's terminology out in the culture sometimes that goes, hey, you need to go advocate for yourself. You need to go and advocate for yourself, whether that's at work, at the hospital, whatever it is. And I just want to bring your attention to this, because yes, you can advocate for yourself, but at the truest form, at the truest definition of the word advocate, it is for somebody else to speak up for you. It's when somebody else grabs that cause and says, "I'm going to go represent that person." It's kind of like when in a court of law, a lawyer represents somebody and speaks to the jury or the judge for that. Like, there's a
Mhm.
stronger voice that comes when somebody else is advocating for you, when they're representing you and they're saying, "Hey, I need you to pay attention to this. I need you to hear me out." And so, yes, stand up for yourself, speak up, do that. But at the truest form of advocating, it's when another person's doing it for the other. And so I want to make sure that that's not missed.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I think I don't even know if I would call it self advocacy. I know that term is out there, but I think that's more speaking up for yourself.
Right.
And like you were saying, that true advocacy really is when you are advocating for someone else or something else, like a cause.
Hmm. Yeah,
Hmm.
100%. And um, it's pretty neat as I see how Chosen and Created is unfolding here. I think it's funny, something that you and I have in common. When we have some ideas and some big dreams and vision, uh, it, it's hard for us to stay in our lane. And what I mean by that is that we're always thinking outside of the box. We are always thinking bigger. We're not. You and I are never satisfied with just one type of impact. And I say that because for you, when you started this business, you weren't just trying to help people with PFIC. And for those of you who
Mhm.
don't know, PFIC is a rare disease, a rare liver disease, and that is found in a lot of children. And so you weren't just trying to advocate for them. You now started a company that would help anybody that has the desire to advocate for any type of cause or any type of thing. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, thank you. um, and it really started not even as an advocacy business. It just started as like, no, I wouldn't say a hobby, because I'm like not a crafty person. And it kind of started out as me learning how to make different things, um, because I wanted to turn it into a business.
Mm,
And then, um, just in when I was deep in thought about what kind of business that would be, I was like, well, You know what I'm actually really passionate about is advocacy. Like that can make a great business. So yeah, it's funny how you're totally right. I can never, both of us, we could never just do something kind of smaller. It always turns into something bigger.
Well, it's just so neat how that kind of comes about, and I think there's a
Mhm.
lesson to learn here too. Is that you mentioned that you're not a crafty individual, and but that hasn't stopped you from starting a business that is creative, and I think
Mhm.
maybe we need to catch that the difference between being crafty and being creative. Like we're all creative, and
Yeah.
I have a podcast coming up in the future here where we're going to talk about creativity
Mm.
with a special guest. So I'm just going to plug that in. Uh,
Yeah.
but it's important to know that we're all creative, and that you figured out a way to still create impact and start a business around that.
Yeah, and I think along with being creative, it comes with uh, being willing to learn new things. Because I didn't know how to do anything of the kind of stuff that I have in my business now. Like I create mugs and shirts and signs. I knew absolutely nothing about that kind of stuff, and I just thought, hey, this will be a fun new skill to learn. I had zero skill base in any of that, so you just never know. You like trying new things is always a positive, I think.
Agree, 100% agree. That was well said. You're actually wearing a shirt that you have made. It says, what does it say? Advocate like a mama.
Advocate like a mama.
Very cool. What other things are you uh, creating in your business that are similar to that, and what's kind of the heart behind that?
Well, I have a lot of hoodies, t-shirts, and different mugs and that type of thing. And they're all based though around advocacy or rare disease. Um, there's a lot of zebras on some of my stuff. And for those that don't know, zebras actually represent rare disease because
Mhm.
when doctors are in medical school and they're learning how to diagnose, there was a quote out there, when you hear hoofbeats, think of horses, not zebras. Meaning, when you hear the symptoms of a disease, think of the more common ones first, and then think of rare diseases, the zebras. So zebras are a big deal, and they're on a lot of my items. But I do have other stuff that's just general advocacy because it's not just people with rare diseases that advocate. It's more common diseases and things that are not even diseases. Like I'm advocating for my child at school because they need help in different areas. So yeah, it's more generalized stuff, advocacy stuff.
And I love that because it creates a lot of opportunity. Because you nailed it, right? Advocacy steps outside the boundaries of a medical disease.
Hmm.
Um, you've had some fun stuff. I know I own a shirt that says "Advocate like a boss." I love it. It's a fun shirt, and you've done some other things. But this is the thing, right? Okay, we got people here listening to this podcast from all walks of life, and we have leaders from all arenas, and we're talking about business, we're talking about jobs, people that are trying to start their business, people that are trying to lead in nonprofit organizations, or even um, maybe even as starting out just leading in their home, which
Hmm.
we all know how important that is.
Yeah.
And so it goes to show you that we all get an opportunity to advocate, and specifically for leadership. Like if you're a leader, if you own your own company, I hope you see yourself as an advocate, because uh, you get to serve your people. And I've talked about this before, so we're not going to get into it, but you get to serve your people and you get to advocate for them. That could be advocating for them in front of a customer, advocating in front of a supplier, other companies that you're partnering up with. Maybe you don't own a company, but you work in a job that you're kind of in the middle of an owner and employees. as a leader, you get to advocate for them if you want to change the work culture. If you think that somebody's not being represented right or correctly, there's so much opportunities to do that. Even if you're a teenager in school, like you get to be a leader and advocate for your peers if they're being bullied, or if you're a teacher. Like we can go on and on and on. If you're a coach in sports or in the business world, you will find opportunities to advocate. And that's why I thought it was important to bring you on, Alex, to chat about this, because there's an overwhelming amount of opportunities for us to be able to think outside of ourselves and think about others when it comes to advocating.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's what leadership and advocacy have in common is it takes a lot of the same skill set and a lot of the same mindset, because
Mm.
what makes a great leader, right? I mean, like, it's who you are and what you do for others. And that's the same thing that makes a great advocate. It's like
Mm.
often I think advocates are seen as people that fight or people that go in and they just argue and they're very argumentative. Like,
Mm.
this is what my child needs and you will give it to them. That's actually not a great way to advocate because it's about the people skills, right? Is someone going to want to help you if you come in and you're just super aggressive and rude and demanding? No, they're going to want to help you. If you come in and you're, you know what, we all have the same goal in mind.
Yeah.
We want my child to do well. So how can we work together and make that happen? So it's
Mm.
like advocates are leaders and leaders are advocates. It's kind of one and the same when you view it as um, like the who you are behind it, the skills that you need to be that type of person.
Uh, I love that. I love that because leadership involves people skills. It involves adding value, involves serving and caring for people. And if we take that into the advocacy world, you're right. Understanding that it's not about like them against us against them. Uh,
Yeah.
Sometimes we just need to learn how to find common ground and realize that actually maybe we all want the same thing, and it's not always the case, but maybe we all
Right.
want the same thing. We're just going about it differently, and we got to figure out how to work together because we need each other. Everybody
Yeah.
plays an important role. I mean, we've seen that specifically in the rare disease world, but it
Mhm.
happens in other places too, right? I mean, whether in a business, yes, you got some owners out there that want to create profit and want to have a successful business. Well, the employee wants to have a job. They want to be able to represent the business correctly too. They want to have a place where they can love and enjoy because they're spending a good chunk of their life in there. And so it's just understanding that collaboration and working together is an important thing to keep on mind.
Yeah. Honestly, I think majority of those things come down to your people skills
Yeah.
and your personal growth and just what type of person you are. It's just huge in everything that you do.
So to be clear, in case we haven't been clear up to this point, is that everybody can be an advocate. Everybody
Oh,
is an advocate,
definitely.
right? Uh,
Yeah.
uh, we might need to develop it. We might need to, uh, sharpen some of our skills. But we're all. Uh, I'm gonna say it this way. I think we're all called to be an advocate.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you'd be totally right in saying that.
So you started a company that's going to help people advocate, regardless of what the cause is, what's on their heart. How would you recommend somebody who's starting out? Like, how do you get into advocacy work, or how do you start advocating for that passion that somebody has?
How do you start advocating? That's a really great question. Um, I think that sometimes it can be really obvious. Like in our case, of course, I'm going to advocate for my child. But in other cases, I think it involves a lot of self reflection.
Mm.
And what is it that you're passionate about? And what um, holes is not the right word, but for lack of a better word, the holes do you see in society that you think need to be filled? And how do you go and make a difference in that?
Mm.
It involves a lot of thinking outside of yourself, and how you can help other people. So yeah, I think everybody, if they stopped and really thought about it, there is something in their life that they could advocate for.
Yeah. I want to add a plug in for you here because, like, you do make these shirts and apparel and all these things about advocating. And one thing that I love about what you produce there is that, um, if I can put it this way, it's almost like it's clothing that speaks for itself, right? Like
Yeah,
it has its own voice. And so if you're having um, challenges, or you're having trouble stepping out of your comfort zone in that. Um, I think wearing a shirt like the one you're wearing creates conversation. It creates
yeah.
curiosity, and people want to know more, right?
Well, and that's a really great point, because you might not have something in your life that you feel like you need to advocate for, but there are others in your life that I'm sure have something that they are passionate about advocating for. And so, what's better than supporting and encouraging a friend by helping them advocate? Like, I know people in
Mm.
our life that have done that, and it has been a huge for us. I just, that support alone is so helpful.
Okay, I'm so glad you said that because that actually reminds me of the importance part about if you're trying to figure that out, even if you're not passionate about advocating for something in the season that you're in,
Hmm.
you can still help a friend. You can still just spread the word. I mean, social media, guys, it's simple to just click and say, I'm sharing this for a friend. If you know somebody or if you're able to help, please check this out. Like, it doesn't actually take that much time. It doesn't take that much effort or
Yeah.
energy to be able to do that. But what I want to bring to the attention is that that small move, that small act of kindness, if we can call it that,
Hmm.
you just never know how much it'll mean to the other people that are trying to advocate for their cause. You just never know the ripple effect because you might know somebody that would be perfect for their work, their organization, that has the right network that would just bless those people to be able to move forward. And all you had to do is just share. I mean, think about that.
Yeah, very simple. And that brings us back to our conversation about adding value.
Yeah.
That is such an easy way that you can add value to somebody. Like, it actually really is that easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And allow the building blocks to build on top of that, right? Like, we just want to encourage you, and I think your heart here, Alex, is that you just want people to be conscious about this, that there is opportunities to advocate, and it doesn't even have to be a cause that is dear to your heart. Though if there is, go full throttle and figure out ways that you can to add value. Hey, we've already talked about it. We have busy lives. There's a lot of things going on, but sometimes we can just advocate in the most simplest ways, and the impact that gets created through that can be bigger than you can ever imagine.
Yeah. And it's, advocacy doesn't have to be something that overtakes your whole life like the way it has ours. It can be like a small thing, like you were saying, is sharing a post on social media or donating to something that you care about. Like, it could be very simple things. It doesn't have to be this big huge thing. I'm starting an organization, I'm going to the parliament, and I'm going to be part of a protest. Like, it doesn't have to be that. It can be much simpler.
That's right. And let's not get confused that when we say that, advocacy is also the same as leadership. Like, leadership doesn't always have to present itself as like, I got to go start something. I got to be the one, the top dog. I got to be the one on the, I don't need to be the one that knows everything.
Hmm.
Sometimes being a leader is just simply using the influence that you have and using it in your circle, and making sure that you're using it to add value.
Yeah, I mean, it's really about, are you becoming the best version of yourself? And that starts with just reflecting on what are you passionate about, and what makes you cry, what
Mm,
makes you angry,
yeah,
and go and do something about those things, right?
yeah.
And that's leadership and advocacy combined into one. And right, to do those things well, you need to be personally growing. Like it's just, it
Yes.
all kind of goes together.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
Hey, I've been meaning to ask you, like, why did you actually call your company Chosen and Created?
That's a deep question. I mean, it doesn't sound like a deep question, but it has a deep meaning. I believe that everybody has been chosen, and here I am again. I'm going to bring up my faith, but that you were chosen, and that you are loved, and that you were created on purpose for a purpose. And I want you to go live it out. And that's like the basics behind chosen and created. And that morphs into kind of my part of my purpose in life is advocacy, which is why all my stuff is about advocacy. But it's because I've seen a lot of people that are hurting and broken in the
Mhm.
world of rare disease. Um, like just stuff that has been so disturbing to hear and see, like people's marriages falling apart, um, just anger issues, different people with addictions that have come out of
Yeah.
such a devastating place. And it's because it's not a simple answer, but a lot of it is because they don't realize that they are loved and that they are worthy, and
Mm.
their life isn't over because something like this has happened to them. And so I want advocates to realize that they don't have to live in their brokenness. They don't have to be angry for the rest of their life. They don't have to go and fight for everything.
Mhm.
That they can do it out of a place of peace,
Right.
no matter the circumstance, and that they are loved. That's the hugest thing that I want people to realize.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's so good. That was so well put. Um, I love it. I love it. And you do some work with the Leader Co. Not some work. You do a lot of work with the Leader Co. What was your title again?
The chief leadership advocate.
There we go. Right. It's funny how everything has come together that represents you in the truest form, and I know that the heart behind that title, which is a unique one, is that you want to advocate not only for leaders but for people to become better leaders and understand the importance of why leadership, uh, good leadership, matters in this world and why it's important to lead well.
Yeah, 100%. It's a funny title because I think to be a good leader, you need to be a good advocate because you're advocating for your people or for your family, right?
Yeah.
But to be a good advocate, you definitely need to be a good leader.
Yeah.
So it kind of it sums up me in one title.
No, it totally does, and you're doing a great job at it.
Thank you.
And yeah, and it shows on how everything is just intermingled in everything you do. You're on purpose, and each thing that you do, but you represent yourself as one in all of that. And so, you've already kind of gave us some really good pointers and thoughts, but I do want to give you an opportunity. One other opportunity is there. Um, one piece of advice that you can give to our listeners that you want them to make sure they catch, that they take on their journey to make their life better. Do you want to add to what you've already said?
I think I would just really hammer on the point of you need to know who you are. Um, you need to know that you are loved,
Mm.
and you were created for a purpose. And take time to kind of reflect on the things you've been through, the things that you're passionate about, um,
Mm.
and kind of what you think could come out of that. I think is really important. Um,
Mm.
and just kind of one other thing that might be a little bit off topic, but I think is really important, is when something hard happens to you, I think it's significant to let yourself feel the emotions first. Um, and if you need to break down, then break down.
Right.
But then, like, I don't want to say pull it together, but after you've released the emotions, is then where you can kind of pick up and go, okay, what do I need to do? How can I better myself? But that all comes from knowing who you are. So
Mm,
that's kind of why I think that's the most important thing for people to figure out, because you might not be going through something hard and you might think you're fine,
right.
but something hard may come into your life. So you might as well figure out who you are while things are good, and it'll be so much easier for you um, if something hard happens.
Mm, so good.
Hmm.
No, so good. That's an important pointer. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
So Alex, you're on the It Matters podcast, and I love to ask our guests, and you've said a lot, but I like to ask our guests, what matters to you right now? Um, and and you might have mentioned it, but I want to make sure we bring it to the top of the list here. So, what matters to you right now?
Yeah. Well, everything I just talked about really matters. But something more specific, I guess, that I'm kind of learning right now is that relationships with all of our kids matter. Um, and I mean, of course they matter, but figuring out how to connect with each child individually has
Mm,
really come to the forefront for me, especially as our girls are getting older,
right.
how to connect with girls because I'm not so girly, um, has been something I'm really, really learning and leaning into. And just making sure that they all feel special and they all feel significant and equally loved, because they are,
Right.
but do they feel that? So
Mm,
yeah, that has really, that does matter to me a lot right now.
awesome. I love it. I love it.
Hmm.
All right. So, if somebody wanted to get in contact with you and they wanted to reach out to you, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram, just chosen and created. You can also find me through the Leader Co.
Yep.
So
Right.
yeah.
And we'll put those that information in the show notes so everybody has access to that. But this has been good. This has been really good. I've been wanting to have this type of conversation, and the reality is that you and I have a lot that we can talk about. There's a lot of things about our journey that we can unravel and add value to people,
Mhm.
and that's something to consider for the future for sure. But I just wanted to say thank you for coming on to the show today and just wearing your heart. Proud and showing it to the world, because what you're doing is very important, and you're a superhero, with the way you're a mom at home with 5 children. You get to be part of a couple of different businesses, and you also find time to be an advocate by volunteering with the PFIC network, and in all that you figure out a way to be a wife to me. That is awesome, and I appreciate you very much, and I love you. And so, thanks for coming on and adding value to so many people.
Well, thank you for inviting me and seeing value in me. Um, and a lot of who I am and what I do comes from you and the value that you have added to me, um, the encouragement that I've received from you. Um, you've taught me how to dream big. You've taught me. Um, you've loved me well through things, a lot of things that we've been through. Sorry, I'm getting emotional, but you're just so great. um, and even just seeing you doing this podcast, you're living out you're living out the dreams that you had 10 years ago. It's just you're very significant in my life, and my number one and favorite job is to be your wife. So yeah,
Well,
I love
thank
you
you.
too.
All right. Well, this has been awesome. Thanks for saying all that. Um, but yeah, I think this is the conclusion to this episode. I appreciate you. Thanks for being a big a dreamer. You're one of the biggest dreamers that I know, and one of the best leaders that I know out there. And so, thank you for doing everything that you're doing. And yeah, I'm excited for the future.
Awesome. Me too.
All right, guys. Well, this is the conclusion to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Please make sure to comment, like it, share it. We would appreciate that support. But until next time, guys, dream big, grow always, and lead well. Bye for now.